As far as your evaluation process, like, why were you looking at metadata? What was the problem that you were trying to solve?
Yeah, so our CMO kind of put out feelers for, hey, we might ask you to do some more traditional ABM in the coming quarters. And so at the time we had a pretty plain tech stack, and I came from an agency background, so I had familiarity with a lot of the big name like ABM tools like Rollworks and tools like that. So I started off with a small list. I actually didn't know about metadata until I went to G2 and saw you guys on one of the quadrants. But so it started off very traditional. There's a bit of a nuance to what we were looking for because we were acquired by Cisco. And so it, like, vendor approvals, I think, is difficult for everyone, but trust me, you've never worked for the government, aka Cisco or IBM, like these major red tape companies. So you were already an approved vendor. So that was a huge thing for us. Yeah, that was part of it. But then we were very active in LinkedIn and Facebook already. So then the first time I got a demo, my eyes were open to, oh, wow, this is like not a traditional ABM platform / like I could use this for so many other things than I initially thought. So yeah, there's so many areas I could go. So I'll just stop there and ask.
I'm going to ask you one more question, then I'll kick it over to Evan. Did you have specific criteria in mind from your perspective? What did you need the solution to do, whatever solution you ended up going with?
Yeah, I did have some documents at the time when I was going through and ranking them. I do remember it was really important to me to be able to launch campaigns like from the platform. So there are other like big name platforms that you can push audiences to, like LinkedIn, and then but you have to set up everything from there. And I knew from my prior experience, like how much of a headache that is. The other big thing too, and probably for especially most marketers out there now, like the revenue attribution standpoint, and there's so many ways that has evolved since I signed on. It seems like a different product now in a good way, but for what we use HubSpot for marketing automation and our CRM. We wanted to know, like, would we belong at the time, like HubSpot CRM integration wasn't there, but it was on your roadmap. And that was a huge piece for me because I knew it's very difficult to tie, whether it's ABM or just normal like paid social activities. And like this could get into a different discussions about attribution and stuff like that. I'm not trying to go there right now, but that was certainly a piece of it as well.
Awesome. Now, Evan, I think you had signed on maybe a month or so before Andrew did as a metadata customer. So thinking back to that point, how did your evaluation compare to what Andrew went through?
Yeah, less sophisticated on the like vendor approval side, but I can appreciate how you got a new category of tool. There really wasn't anything like it, and frankly, really isn't, right? There are some wannabe competitors that generally cover B2C advertising, needs a lot more than B2B. And at Convoy, it's two-sided marketplace. So we have shippers, big ticket, revenue side, buyer side of the supply demand thing. And we have carriers, and the carriers are super low CAC, right? Because essentially they're a cost center, right? It's not really a good thing for me to go to the CMO and say, I need an advertising platform in order to get more of these people that ultimately cost us money. But on the sell side, on the buy side, with the shippers, big ticket brands, lots of touches. Convoy had a great PR campaign, but we didn't really have a way of closing that gap through lead gen and bringing things full circle. And so the SDR team was amazing at producing meetings, but our marketing efforts really didn't have a home for tracking impact on pipeline. You mentioned this, Andrew. And so that was a big feature when I saw, rather than having to wait on marketing ops to be able to orchestrate some sort of attribution methodology, which is just always complicated, I could have out of the box insight into influenced and triggered impacted opportunities based on leads I was driving. Not only that, I think the big appeal to me was the experimentation component. I love multivariate testing a little too much.
And long sales cycles, multivariate testing. Oh, he's a robot.
Give me lots of data and spreadsheets. The idea of a place to run dynamic tests pulling from CRM data, intent source, home for paid social, and could dive into like why paid social is such a unique opportunity, obviously, for B2B advertisers. And if people are listening and they're just thinking about opening a paid social budget or scaling up, like, you got to think about how LinkedIn is now the nexus of business relationships, right? It has the homegrown data about professionals that you're trying to reach. And metadata opens up this Facebook match capability that through its many data vendors that it's enriching with. So it was just utterly unique. And when I sat down, we were comparing 6sense, and which is a great tool for certain things, but 6sense tried to say like they could actually take over the paid social campaigns in a way that's competitive with metadata. And we sat down and they showed me how, okay, you build a list in 6sense, get to the end, and you have to go into LinkedIn native to deploy it. And I was like, guys, that's different. It's super different, right? Multivariate testing impact on pipeline. 6sense could touch the pipeline impact a little bit, right? But ultimately, this was like a one-stop shop for running paid social in a way that I'd never seen before, still haven't.
Andrew, it looked like you were about to chime in.
I was just like what Evan just said, because it was between 6sense and metadata. And this, just for anyone, we did not come into this meeting and say, hey, we're trying to compare to 6sense. There were some things I liked about 6sense that metadata doesn't have, but that was huge. I didn't want to do that. And I think too, I didn't realize, like, from an operational standpoint, like the literally, like in the last, like it's been over a year now, we have saved like so many hours with just the ops side and like building stuff out, but like the testing too. Like I think we use metadata differently than even like some of the other quote unquote like power users, because we just have like kind of some specific campaigns and goals. Like it's different for everyone, but there's so many. And to Evan's point about the audiences, like that was one thing I forgot too. Like we were about to purchase G2 intent data at the time, so that was another huge reason. I have very different opinions on that now after having tested that and run that, but I think the audience capabilities and like previewing the audiences was a huge thing. We've evolved our audience targeting so much, really by just looking into our CRM, but being able to build audiences in metadata has like really helped us expedite that process, which for any B2B marketer, like audiences is like the thing you can control, like depending on whether how much you're in that the creative actual like process. So yeah, that was just huge.